Good morning, everyone. There is an alarming surge in COVID cases among pregnant women. Just last month, a pandemic record of at least 20 expectant moms died from COVID in the United States. And over the summer, about 1,000 per week were testing positive. The CDC recently updated its guidance, officially recommending that pregnant women get vaccinated. Here's a report now on COVID's tragic toll on one family.
9 years after Austin and Bianca Carrington met, the two were married in the backyard of their Arlington, Texas home and were overjoyed when their son Hollis was born.
I pretty much dedicated my life towards making her happy.
At 29, Bianca was pregnant with their second child when she got sick with COVID in July. Austin had just gotten vaccinated, but she was waiting.
Her OBGYN said, yeah, it's safe, but we still wanted to find out and get even more verification.
Within days of being admitted to the hospital, Bianca was intubated, miscarried, and then put on life support.
The last time she was conscious, she wasn't able to speak. She just took my hands and put them on her belly. And I just said, yeah, I know, I heard.
Soon after losing their baby, Austin lost his wife.
It's not supposed to be this way.
Dr. Rachel Morris is a high-risk OBGYN at the University of Mississippi Medical Center.
I have never in my career been this afraid for the patients I care for.
In less than 4 weeks, her hospital lost 5 pregnant women, all of them unvaccinated. New data shows an increased risk of severe complications and death for pregnant women, and only about 30% have been fully vaccinated prior to or during pregnancy.
You know, I'm glad for the mask, and they can't see the tears in my eyes, the fear in my own face, because I know when they get intubated that they're probably not going to make it off the ventilator, but that we're going to do everything we can.
Now Austin is left to raise 15-month-old Hollis alone.
I thought we were playing it safe by not getting the vaccine because of the baby, and now turns out getting the vaccine would have been the safe bet.
Mireya Villarreal, CBS News, Arlington, Texas.
Well, we all know air pollution is bad, but a new study shows it's worse than scientists thought. So the World Health Organization has updated its air quality guidance for the first time in 15 years. Here's Ian Lee with that story from London.
The World Health Organization is slashing the recommended levels for air pollution, saying the harmful effects of dirty air kick in at lower levels than first thought.
Because of air pollution, the simple act of breathing contributes to 7 million deaths a year.
Health officials say polluted air increases the risk of conditions like pneumonia, asthma, heart disease, stroke, and cancer. The WHO is urging nations to cut levels of several pollutants, including nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide, and fine particulate matter, which can travel through the lungs and directly into the bloodstream.
Clean air is a political choice and a societal responsibility.
Scientists say some of the most dangerous pollutants are fossil fuels, burning from cars and power plants. Last week, a court in Indonesia found government officials guilty of environmental negligence for failing to tackle air pollution in the capital and ordered them to clean up the smog. Health experts say drastic cuts to air pollution worldwide could add 2 years to our lives. The WHO is now calling on governments to follow its formula for a cleaner future. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
And the WHO guidelines come ahead of a key climate change conference in Scotland. That will be next month. Well, this is Child Passenger Safety Week, and car crashes are a leading cause of death in children ages 1 to 13. While most families use car seats boosters to protect kids, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says a majority are not put in properly. Mandy Gaither has more on how to keep your children safe in the car.
On the road, it's the first line of defense in a car crash, but car seats aren't always easy to install.
Each car seat is different and there's different ways to fasten it properly.
In the emergency department at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, Dr. Angela Costa has seen firsthand the dangers of children not properly restrained.
When you think of things that like, wow, if we had just done this the outcome would be totally different. It's frustrating, it's sad.
Infants and toddlers should be buckled in a rear-facing car seat with a harness in the back seat until they reach the maximum weight or height limit of their car seat. The strap should be at or below the child's shoulders, and the harness should be snug. A certified child passenger safety technician can help properly install the seat and can be found at many police and fire stations. As the child grows, forward-facing seats with a harness should be used. The strap should be at or above the shoulders. Put the seat at the correct angle. The manual will help determine that. Then it's booster seats. Always use a lap and shoulder belt to properly secure it. The belt should sit low and snug across the child's hip bones and away from the child's neck, crossing the middle of their chest and shoulder.
Accidents do happen, so being as safe as possible before the accident occurs really makes a difference.
And your child is ready to come out of their booster when they are at least 57 inches tall and they can sit with their back against the seat with their knees bent over the edge of the seat. The belt should still go across the center of the chest and shoulders and across the hip bones. All right, ready for the picking. It's cranberry time. That's coming up next on Mid Morning. Welcome back, everyone. A 3-week production shutdown at Toyota, Mississippi will soon be coming to an end. Our Allie Martin has more on what caused the shutdown and what team members can expect when the production line gets rolling again.
On a regular workday, this track on the west side of the Blue Springs plant would be busy as Corollas are test driven. But for the past 3 weeks, there has been no activity on the track. Toyota announced a temporary production shutdown at its plants in North America. The shutdown is in its 3rd week at the Blue Springs plant. Supply chain issues and a microchip shortage are being blamed.
So basically the chip shortage has occurred during the pandemic due to the pandemic impacting employers in various regions throughout the world. And in those regions right now, people are quarantined and unable to come to work. Therefore, they cannot produce the chips that we need to put into our vehicles.
The chips come from countries such as China, Vietnam, and Malaysia and help drive a car's computer, safety systems, and other features. Corollas will start coming off the assembly line at Toyota, Mississippi Monday morning. Toyota management is hopeful that going forward, supply chain issues are resolved, so another production shutdown is not necessary. Toyota Mississippi won't be at full production immediately.
When we start back on Monday, we will ramp up slowly next week to get our team members kind of acclimated back to the, physical condition that it takes to build our vehicles. So we will do extra stretching and things like that to make sure that our team members start back up safely.
Nearly 2,000 team members work at the Blue Springs plant. Allie Martin, WCBI News.
And team members at the Blue Springs plant can make 170,000 Corollas every year. All right, as the leaves change colors with the start of fall, so do cranberries. Their rich red color means they are ready for harvest. Wisconsin cranberry growers are getting ready to harvest the state's #1 fruit. Hannah Borchett reports that Dubé Cranberry Company is expecting a year.
Right now we're standing in a cranberry bed. We're blowing away one myth. They don't grow in water. The only time we use water is at harvest time or to protect them in the winter time.
As manager, Dave Hansen has to monitor the weather carefully to make sure the cranberries are properly cared for.
Over here we have a solar panel that goes to one of our temperature probes.
When it gets too cold, the probe alerts him to turn on the water to keep them warm.
Colder temperatures and shorter days bring on the redness of the fruit.
And when they get to the right shade of red, that's when it's time for harvest.
So we'll put a little thin layer of water on just to cover just underneath the top of the vines. We'll remove our irrigation system out, then we'll bring in a tractor with a harvesting machine on it. It's called a harrow, and it'll gently knock off the berries. Since the berries are hollow on the inside, they float.
Before the 50s, they'd use a tool like this to scoop them. I got to try it, and it's a workout. It's important to scoop in the same direction as the vines to not harm the berries. But you can't harvest 40,000 barrels of cranberries in a few weeks doing it like this. Instead, they use tractors to keep up with the demand for cranberries. They produce 60% of cranberries worldwide.
And here's a little fun fact, about 4,400 cranberries are needed to make 1 gallon of cranberry juice. All right, sometimes finding a job means having the right skills and resources. That's why in the D.C. area, a job training program is helping women in need bake the world a better place. Here's Jan Crawford.
Hey, you guys.
Sadie Kirkland says she was broken. After 20 years of battling alcoholism and more than a decade of unemployment, the former Army private hit rock bottom.
Both my kidneys had shut down.
Oh, gosh.
And I was in ICU for 9 days. It was a touch and go situation.
That was her wake-up call, which she's answering here at Together We Bake, a Virginia nonprofit that uses baking to teach women in need about business, ownership, and being part of a team.
In my lowest moments, I always felt alone. But here at Together We Bake, I have sisters that have similar stories.
The sweet treats are sold in local stores and online. 90% of the graduates earn a food service certification, opening a door to the industry if that's the route they choose.
You come as you are and you're accepted for that. You are never thought less of for something you've done or you've been through.
You're back on your feet. What does that mean to you?
It means to me that you can always overcome an obstacle.
Overcoming any obstacle together. Jan Crawford, CBS News, Alexandria, Virginia.
A federal appeals court is considering a lawsuit that seeks to overturn the lifetime voting ban for Mississippians with certain felonies. Courtney Ann Jackson explains how many have been fighting for change for several years now.
When I got out and I said, okay, hey, I got to go run and get registered to vote. And that's when it was like a slap in the face.
Dennis Hopkins couldn't register, much less vote. His 1998 grand larceny conviction is among the 22 felonies that ban Mississippians from voting. Since release, he's become a foster parent, city employee, and youth mentor.
I paid my debt to society. My question is, did you sentence me to 4 years in prison or did you sentence me to life sentence? That's what I want to know, because putting this ban on me was a life sentence.
Hopkins joined a Southern Poverty Law Center lawsuit in 2017. It made it to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, but as he hears of the latest hearing, he's yet to get a ruling in his own case seeking to overturn the ban. Meanwhile, former inmate Pauline Rogers didn't lose her voting rights. The list of disenfranchising crimes has expanded since her release, but
deal with it every day. People that come out, you serve time.
She says she'll keep fighting for them.
That second chance is never a full one. Until we restore the rights of voting, that we don't have equal chances. When you restore the voting right, then we will feel some degree of being equalized, because voting is a right, a matter of justice and equal justice.
There are two ways someone can get their voting rights restored: a pardon from the governor or a suffrage bill that goes through the legislature. Mississippi Votes has digitized that application.
And even in that process, making it past the House, past the Senate, is a devil in itself, because we don't know the criteria, right? And so every year the criteria, the standards change.
But they say the success rate is low, so they're hopeful the appeals court will do away with the ban altogether. Courtney Ann Jackson, WCBI News.
All right, when we come back, underwater artwork, one with nature. That's coming up next. All right, we're back, everyone. Over the past 15 years, artist Jason DeCaries Taylor has been transforming seafloors into public art spaces. The sculptor, environmentalist, and underwater photographer's projects explore our relationship to the world around us. He met with Elizabeth Palmer to discuss the messages behind his art.
15 feet down, just off the coast of Grenada, stands a ring of concrete children. Nearby, a lone man sits at a typewriter. Welcome to the world's first underwater sculpture park, the creation of British artist Jason DeCaries Taylor.
Traditional artworks were often quite about the dangers of the right. sea and battling the elements and man versus nature. And so I'm trying to sort of change that in a way and show how incredibly fragile it is, how incredibly finely balanced.
The project began with DeCaries Taylor casting living Grenadians in plaster after a hurricane had destroyed many of the island's coral reefs. He wondered if underwater sculptures based on the casts could lure divers and tourists away from the reefs that had survived.
Maybe if I created something that was a distraction or a way to attract them to an area that was barren or that had been impacted by the hurricane, then it might.
That would give the reefs that were growing better conditions to grow.
Yes.
The sculptures made of non-polluting concrete kept growing and changing too. Ocean creatures moved in, plants, fish, and coral are slowly turning them into artificial reefs. That first marine sculpture park has led to others, from Mexico to the Maldives.
What goes through your mind when you swim around your installations and see them fusing with nature?
Initially, they're all just barren stretches of sand underwater with very little marine life. But when I go and see them now, there's turtles, there's soft corals, there's hard corals, there's massive shoals of fish, octopus, this massive centre of life.
DeCary's Taylor is much in demand. In his workshop just outside London are casts from more than a dozen marine installations, which have grown more political to reflect his passion for the environment and his worry about humanity's precarious future.
I think this is probably one of the most obvious sculptures that I've made, and it was part of the recent installation in Cyprus. I think it's pretty self-evident about
next generation
yes.
carrying us. One of his recent installations sits on Australia's Great Barrier Reef. She's called the Siren, wired to show the ocean warming around the coral. And 20 feet underwater, off the coast of Cyprus, a new project has just opened. Human forms in an underwater forest that's already drawing marine creatures.
I suppose part of the message as your sculptures get encrusted with living creatures is this ocean is full of life and it will regenerate given the chance.
Definitely, I think there is a sort of a positive narrative that people take away when they visit the works. That I hope that it reminds them that we are nature. We're part of the environment. We're dependent on each other for our ultimate survival. It's this symbiotic relationship.
I'm Elizabeth Palmer in London.
Coming up a little later, one barber moves his chair outside. We'll have that story next. The sound of a typewriter is the siren song for a poet with a large goal. Here's his story.
I heard it a block away because the typewriter is quite loud.
The methodical melody,
I think it's nostalgia,
that only a typewriter provides, is a sound Giovanni Ciro can't resist.
It's kind of like a little bit of music,
The soundtrack to this writer's life, a man who has a love for poetry.
I wrote my first poem when I was 9 for my grandfather. Yeah, really had a big impact on me. He cried. At the time, I don't think I really noticed, but now I realize how much that was an impact. I could really change how people feel with words.
Poetry is Gio's passion. He spent this drizzly morning typing for Jason Waits.
This is a person that will take a word or a phrase or a concept and can physically put it on a paper so another person can look at it and absorb it and feel the feelings from that. It's actually kind of magical.
Each line inching him closer to his typing target.
1 million poems is the goal.
Gio believes he can do it. So does his wife, Kaylee.
He's been writing poems since I met him. He already has 4,000 under his belt. I don't see why he couldn't do it.
Still, 1 million poems is a giant hill to climb, but it's a journey worth its weight in words.
I'm not daunted because it's not like oh, if I don't do it, then I didn't succeed. I'm already succeeding. It's the whole idea is just to write poetry. But let's make some weird goal, some crazy goal, and let's just go for it, and not worry too much about if I make it, but let's see where I end up.
At the height of the pandemic, a business-savvy barber switched his business model into the great outdoors. Elise Preston introduces us to a New York City stylist who changed how he offers services, but also uses his talents to promote community service.
It's the buzz of clippers, not critters, that you'll hear in this section of New York City's Central Park.
I get to, do what I do best as an artist, and just shape, create and craft, people into these beautiful human beings they are.
Herman James, now known as the Central Park Barber,
And what about the top?
sets up shop in the scenic outdoors every day when weather permits. He started offering outside services during the height of the pandemic.
Nobody was interested or comfortable in being inside the shops. They were more for being outside where they can get fresh air and at less of a risk of catching COVID.
A year and a half later, he's gained hundreds of clients like Matt Concialdi, who skated past James one day and decided the cut his friend gave him did not make the cut.
How did your friend do, be honest?
Not so good. James offers complimentary haircuts.
I know a lot of people were financially impacted by the pandemic, and I didn't feel a need to charge them at all.
People give what they can, and it's a range from $1 to hundreds.
Somebody baked me a cake once and brought that over.
For James, it's not about the payment. It's the connection to people he says he values the most. Elise Preston, CBS News, New York.
The Central Park barber says he plans to work outside in the park even after the pandemic ends. And we will be right back to wrap things up. All right, stay connected with us. We're on social media. You can email us. We love to hear from you. We'll see you back here next time.